I'm here.
Trustee Eisenberg,
Here.
Trustee Moser,
Here.
Trustee Robbins. Trustee Robbins,
Not yet, but all right.
Trustee Thomas,
Here.
Assessor Churchwell,
Here.
Director Ty,
Here,
and Deputy Clerk Forrester.
she's on mute.
She's, Sandy's here, and
You're looking at someone.
Mr. I know he's here too. Mr. Supervisor, we have a quorum for business.
Okay, and we have a guest as well.
Yes, could you state your name and spell it out so that I can get it right for the minutes?
My name is Mary Lawler, Lawlor.
And Mary, should I list your village?
I'm from Wilmette.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Welcome.
Okay, you need say nothing more unless you choose to.
I won't be saying anything more. So
Okay, well, you could, that's all.
I'm just with the League of Women Voters observing.
But not just, that's quite
Mary,
important.
would you like to set on the in the minutes that you're with the league, or should I just say
That's
Mary Lawler
fine.
Wilmette
Yeah,
resident?
that's fine.
Okay, well, we have a quorum. So let's, our first order of business would be to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. So I'm calling to order our meeting of the Board of Trustees for New Trier Township of July 9th, 2020. Supervisor's report is brief. I spent a couple of days in the office having the opportunity to watch how, with our new ways of attendance and things work, and they work quite well. We efficiently get food out to people when somebody rings the bell. Everyone manages with the sanitation stations and things of that sort. So it's moving well. And hi, Elliot. Most of the townships in our area are still using abbreviated attendance rules. And we're continuing to do that as well. We're closed on Thursday, open the other days of the week. We don't allow members of the public to wander around, and that's for COVID protection, mostly for our staff, but also for the potential clients that may walk in. We handle everybody's needs as well, if not better than we did when we had free and open access to the office. There is nothing that we did before that isn't happening now except for passports, and that's because of the State Department, not us. So we're accomplishing everything, including food distribution from the pantry, as well as we did before. The numbers, and we'll get to that in a little bit, are up, or at least holding stable. There isn't a market reduction in the amount of food that we're distributing. There have been several communications that I'll share with you all at the next meeting. They're just thank you notes from people who've received the gift cards, acknowledging that they got them, and that's a nice thing. And so I'll share, and everyone can see how people are saying nice things to us and thanking us for the services that we're providing. Having said that, we would, do we have minutes to approve? If so, I would entertain a motion to approve such minutes.
I motion to approve Jerome's minutes.
Well, there are minutes, but thank you. And is there a second?
It's the June 9th minute,
Yeah.
correct? I'll
and
second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. I'm having some difficulty reading what my printer turned out for an agenda, which is I suppose when it says change ink, you really should do it.
Other comments?
Clerk's report. Jerome?
We lost Jerome.
He's there.
Jerome, you have to unmute.
One of the things I wanted to suggest to you is that you approve a draft resolution for support of the census.
I'm sorry?
And they view the endorsement of local,
I can't understand you.
Oh, can you not hear me right?
No, it's breaking up.
I can hear
Breaking
you.
up a little bit.
Your mic is breaking up, Jerome.
You want us to approve something, and I'd be glad to entertain such a motion if I knew what the heck you were saying.
It's done 10 years ago, Alan. You
Type
and I
it
were
in the
together.
chat. If you're having issues.
Is it just me who's not hearing?
No, I'm
No,
not
it's-
hearing him either.
He's frozen
He's
to
got
me.
a-
I mean, he's not moving much.
I know that Jerome wants us to approve a resolution encouraging people to get counted for the census as a part of a local
Okay.
government movement.
That would be
Jerome,
nice.
if that is not correct, please do a thumbs down.
All right, so Jerome, we'll be glad to approve a resolution that people get approved for the census. Okay? Is that what you wanted?
I do, thank you. We did 10
All
years
right.
ago, Alan.
Well, I assume that's the clerk's report then?
The only other thing to mention is that the annual town meeting, we'll have to determine at a future meeting.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Something.
Okay, we should do that. And that will require finding out when the take-up center is available and all the other things. And if we are in fact going to do it, we should make those arrangements reasonably soon before we run into next year's planning. Okay.
Yes.
Jan, do you have a report?
Nothing terribly official. Nothing terribly important. We did about 400 appeals overall, which if it had been crushed into 4 weeks would have been a pretty hectic month since it was spread out over 8 weeks. It was really quite easy. And it's totally quiet upstairs. An occasional inquiry about, mostly whether we know whether there's anything to know. And the answer is no, we don't. There isn't anything
Okay.
yet. So that's really about it.
Okay, well, thank you. That's important information for us to have, and I appreciate it. Okay. Emergency.
Before, as a point of order, is there a census resolution before the board?
Oh,
I received a copy of a proposed resolution from Jerome right before the meeting, Gail. I don't know if you had a chance to look at
Well,
it.
let me just pull that up then.
It looks good, Jerome.
All right, well, if somebody would like to introduce it, we could approve it. So, Elliot, given that you have one, would you like to
If you guys want me to read it, I'm happy to read it. It's brief.
How brief?
Please do.
Jerome, how did you draft this? It looks like it comes from a good model, a good template. Is that correct? Jerome,
No.
did your proposed resolution come from a template? If yes, put down.
Jerome says that it's similar to what we approved in 2010.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want me to read it, I will.
I think that may be a way we can get it into the record. Yeah.
Okay. So it would be titled the New Trier Township Resolution 2020-2021, Support of Census 2020. Whereas the U.S. Census Bureau is required by Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution to conduct an accurate count of the population every 10 years, and whereas census data helps determine how many seats each state will have in the U.S. House of Representatives and is used in the redistricting of state legislatures, county boards of supervisors, and city councils, and whereas the decennial census is a huge undertaking that requires cross-sector collaboration and partnership in order to achieve a complete and accurate count. And whereas the U.S. Census Bureau is facing several challenges with the 2020 census during this time of the pandemic, thus support from local government is critical. And whereas New Trier Township, in partnership with other local governments, the state, businesses, and community organizations, is committed to ensuring every resident is counted. Therefore, be it resolved that New Trier Township recognizes the importance of the 2020 census and supports participation in helping to ensure a complete, fair, and accurate count.
Okay.
I move that this resolution be adopted and published by the township.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then we are in favor of getting counted. So, and we'll direct that this be published in the normal fashion that we do for such things. Okay, Jerome? Okay.
Wouldn't this be something that should be in the Courier?
Yeah, it'll go in whatever publications we listings.
Okay.
Okay. So we've done that. Staff reports. I believe that Jean sent us some information. Does anyone have any questions about staff reports?
I have a question for you, Alan.
Okay.
On the emergency assistance, looking at Jean's mid-May report and her most recent report, it looks like there was a significant uptick in the last 2 weeks of May. And I'm wondering if you can shed any color on that. Are we finding people needing housing assistance because of job losses related to the pandemic? If you're able to comment.
That, I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
Oh, sure. As you noted, it is the majority of this is for housing. It's really skyrocketed compared to where we were at this time last year. She indicated in my conversation with her yesterday, just to make sure that that's noted, that the majority of this is housing. It is related to different issues with people losing the jobs, or with people, one of the family members who is the supporting one is losing information. Some of them are really new cases. I've asked her to outline that in the future so that we're able to look at that. But the dollars are just amazing where these people are needing that, and it's focused. We have some of the general assistance people, but it's very incremental compared to this. And I do think it's a direct result of this pandemic.
I've got a quick question, Diana. When it says housing assistance, does that generally mean rent?
Either that or mortgage, John.
One of the
Either
Yeah.
one of the two.
It's some way of getting their housing paid for that they're looking for assistance on.
And just it's a one-time deal where they're trying to get that.
And it seems to be manifesting itself now, especially in late May and in June, maybe not so much at the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah, it appears that way. I think we could ask her to look at a graph, if you will, but I've noticed just from the amount of checks that she's doing, it has increased over the past month and a half as the time gets extended.
Yeah, there was a large number of checks that were reviewed for approval. Well, large for us, but
Right. And I
And-
think this will probably continue for quite some time at this point in time.
the bad news is that such assistance is required. The good news is that we're able to help with it. So that being the case, any other questions on the reports?
I mean, just as a general question, I'm having trouble finding it on our website. Obviously, we got it via email, but I'm not seeing it in
What are you looking for, Gail?
the, I want to make sure that it's publicly available. Hold on.
What?
She sent it in an email.
I know, but
Jeans.
that's not the issue. June. Okay, I see it now. Okay.
You
It
see
was
it?
just, yeah, it's not by the agendas for those who need it.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Okay, is there any new
You want a
business?
motion
Yeah,
to
sure.
approve the
What?
consent motion to approve the reports?
A consent agenda, maybe?
Yeah, the consented, is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? If not, the consent agenda is approved. So now we'll move to any old business.
Can we talk about the office reopening procedures? I know you mentioned, Alan, that you feel like it's going well. I'd just like to get a better sense of what kind of protections are in place for our staff and our residents.
All right, well, Diane, maybe you could, we have gone over a comparison study with some of our peer townships in our
Correct.
immediate geography. And I believe that in terms of security and sanitation and things of that sort, that we're performing at a comparable level of our peers. Is there anything else that you're aware of, Diane, that
No, we've looked at probably 4 or 5 of the different townships, and they continue to be closed to the public. There are 2, I believe it's Maine and Niles, that are planning on opening, obviously with restrictions by appointments, but the pantry is really probably one of the biggest topics where people are not doing that. They are receiving bags as we are. Just to note that we have increased, and I believe Brian addressed it in his report, but we have increased the distribution to 2 bags plus laundry detergent plus paper goods. People are quite pleased with that. In fact, some are probably getting more than they had gotten in the past or taken in the past. It includes vegetables, it includes fruit, the canned goods. That was one of our staples at that point in time. So that there is that kind of activity. We're also doing it once a week. Some other townships are not doing that based on the attendance and that kind of thing. No one is at this point in time is having people shop. If they are going to in June, middle of June, it's going to be by appointment, and obviously the basic things of being sanitized. You're asking about what are they working with. We don't have per se a sanitation station like you would see in a grocery store, but we do have a table out in front. We now have volunteers coming in, as well as what we're calling essential workers. If, for instance, we had an elevator issue, We had some electrical issues. So we have that. Staff is wearing the masks and the gloves, which is your basic type of thing. Building continues to be cleaned. But I think all in all, if we're looking at, we're serving and providing all services for people, and we have been all along. We just continue to do so. The passport agency status is right now on hold. The actual Chicago passport is downtown is now working on March and April, or January, February, March and April items that they had gotten before everything went down. They're not allowing any kind of on-site. They're limited staff. They're basically in going into phase one is what Larisha advised. People do ask. I've received a couple calls after hours, and they are looking for help. We refer them to the passport agency, and I don't know if they have things online. I don't believe they do, but they are taking information. So other than that,
Yeah, but we're not allowed to.
In just infrastructure, since I'm thankfully that the reports covered a lot of the other information. Do we have all of our required bulletins up? Do we have spacing available? You know, have we taken kind of those precautions per the, Department of Economic Development's?
as far as all of our bulletins and all that, we have that, all the different posters and that, we have that annually.
Not the annual, the new ones.
No, we receive that as they are available. We work with our company, the Sage Company, and they get those and we provide those. Now spacing, explain me what you're talking about spacing. Are you talking about this, the overall distancing? Is that what you're describing? We practice that, is that what you're asking?
Right, so if you were to come into the township right now looking for emergency assistance, what would happen?
They don't come into the township at this point in time because we are, as I noted before, we're closed to the public.
You're still doing
Jean is doing that all via the phone and via any kind of virtual, if that is the case. I don't think any of her clients at this point have done that. And that is what other townships are doing.
And what's going on Thursday?
What did you say?
You mentioned that no one's in the office on Thursday. We're
working at home. Oftentimes one of us is in the office, but we are working at home.
Okay, so someone's picking up the phone.
Well, yes.
So we don't have an issue with the 6-foot rule and stuff like that, which would be observed if we were in the office.
Right.
And even when we do have the vendors who have to come in, we go through that and we go through that distancing.
Great.
Okay, any other questions on that sort of thing? We make an effort to make sure that all notices are posted as they're received on the bulletin board. The website, we attempt to keep up to date with any new information that's available. And beyond that, I think in terms of the 6-foot rule, all of that is explained, but nobody comes in, so it doesn't much matter. But so now we've done new business. Any old business, or did we do old business? And
sorry,
additional
business? Old business on the child care scholarships, the summer camp scholarships. Now that camps are closed.
She addressed that. She addressed that in her report.
Right, that's not the question. And I'm glad that we've adjusted that people are now withdrawing from camp, though. What I brought up last time was using those funds that have been earmarked for those families that we normally would pay directly to the camps to the families themselves so they can use them for other childcare.
Correct, but until we have a final count or final information from the different people who are handling the summer camps, to divert those funds at this point in time, I don't think would be something that we're looking at, and that was not what we plan on doing. Jean is working with them, and they are aware that we're going to be giving dollars, but if they can't give her the dollars or the numbers of people, we are not able to issue those dollars. Once they do, we were planning on doing that.
Yeah, they haven't decided what they're
No.
doing for camp or any of that stuff yet, so we're waiting for them to decide.
No, they have. All the park districts have all come out.
But the people she's dealing with have not given her the final, is what, in the final information. So we're not able to issue the checks.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the people who had to withdraw. So in the report, it says several children whose families submitted applications in February or early March have been withdrawn from camp programs due to the parental safety concerns.
Correct.
Right, I'm not talking about the families that will go to camp in one of those new weird care programs through the park districts. I'm talking about the families who aren't going to be using a camp, but are going to be using either some sort of a daycare facility or an in-home care situation.
Well, right. And again, though, Gail, she's working with the people, and those people are giving those statistics to her. So once we have a final count on that, who and how many of those are, we could address what you're referring to diverting those funds,
Okay.
if appropriate.
John, did you want to say something? Could you unmute?
Question. Is it proper to take funds which are specifically allocated for a program such as summer camp scholarships and convert it to individual payments and let the families use it as they wish? That doesn't seem to be appropriate to me.
We wouldn't be doing that. We would have to come to the board with the information, and it's too early to be able to have that kind of information. If they were going to use that, that's a whole totally separate item.
And we would ask the board for permission to use it.
Exactly.
That money is intended, we're calling it summer camp scholarships, but it's effectively intended to be daycare for the kids. In the summer, the same money we're calling day camp instead of, but the end purpose is the same. And before we send it to a specific program, we would ask the board to approve for
Correct.
such a program. But so far, no, those things aren't formally in place yet. We don't just say, here, go to Aunt Matilda and let her watch your kid. That's not what we do. When the park district or somebody sets up a program that's licensed and approved, that's what we'll use. And as soon as we have the name of such a program, we'll bring it to the board so that everyone knows exactly where it's going and what it's for.
Is this sort of thing going to be also covering those kids who would normally have gotten school lunches and that we are subsidizing because the schools aren't operating? What are those kids going to do this summer for lunch?
Right, so we generally in the summer have been funding summer camp scholarships. So my
And daycare scholarships.
And daycare scholarships. So my concern is that those who will not be going to the park district still need childcare.
Yeah.
And we would have to get that information and have that.
And when we have that information, we'll provide it to you. It will be we've been calling it day camp in years past, and may be called something else, but it'll be run by the same people. The park districts and everybody else, it'll be licensed and all the stuff that it's supposed to be. We don't know the name of the program yet, though.
Bingo.
John raises a different question, though, in my mind. There's a difference between how you go about feeding people and providing scholarships for daycare or summer camp, whatever you want to call it. Those are two different matters. And I'm not sure that it's our responsibility, all we could make it, to feed people during the summer, because normally they wouldn't be getting the federal funds for that either. So I think that's an open question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So camp starts next week. So are we saying that the people who are organizing the child care scholarship program don't know what's going on next week?
I can't address that, Gail. I don't speak with them directly. Jean does.
We have not been informed if they do have something available for next week. And we haven't been informed by the people running the programs.
Nor have we
Just large
provided
scale.
any funds.
Would we normally have funded the camps before they start?
The information would have been available and all of the checks would have been approved near the beginning of that. We're probably 3 weeks into it, but this is because of the delay and all the knowing what they were going to be doing.
In a normal year, this would have all been handled by now.
Absolutely. The checks would have been issued.
Okay.
And we're trying to remain as flexible as we can so that when we do know, we can move as quickly as possible. There aren't that many total camp programs that we do, but we're trying to make sure that everybody's funded when they need to be funded, and we fund them sooner if they tell us.
Okay.
And we're not trying to sit on the money.
Okay. I certainly appreciate, a list of everyone who's applied, and if they're going to be going to camp this summer. So
As soon as we have such a list, you will have it, and everyone else will.
I'm going to say it again, but what about the question of feeding people? To me, that's a much more significant issue than whether people go to camp or not. So are we
Bingo.
further
Mm-hmm.
in that regard, or is that a issue which is now passed because school's over with? So I would just as soon address that as the summer camp scholarships.
That's a good
Or
point.
is that something we're handling through the food pantry?
Stefan, that was exactly my thought. I didn't express it very well. What happens to kids that don't go to camp are they going to starve this summer? I presume not, but.
What are we doing about it?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And that's a separate issue from the camp's scholarships.
I think so too, and I think you're mixing apples and oranges at this
But it
point.
appears, it sounds, for clarification, that we won't be taking those dollars out for that. It would be apart and separate. Because right now we have the line item, or the if you will, for the summer camp, and that stays a summer camp. If the money was going to be decided for feeding them, which is the separate issue, then we would say, okay, are we going to do that? We'd have to call it something other than the summer camp. It wouldn't be out of that
Yeah, but
line.
Diane, realistically, you could still continue to take money out of the Angel Fund to provide meals for people,
Absolutely.
having nothing to do with the summer camp program.
Right. I thought you were referring to taking the money out of that. In the discussion Gail and I were having was about the dollars being the ones that aren't
I
going to
understand.
be. Okay.
I
And
get-
that's what
I
I was
get it.
referring to. Yeah. But you're
I get it.
absolutely correct, because that's what we did with the $30,000 for the lunches, the reduced lunches and that.
Yep.
Do we know if there's a need for people to be providing funds for children to eat this summer?
I'm not aware of that.
Nobody made us aware of an extraordinary need or an additional need that we're not funding yet.
did we find, I'm sorry, did we see anybody who got the cards? Did we have any new families come from that outreach?
New families to Jean?
Yeah, to become pantry clients?
Not at this point, but Jean did receive comments that there were people had gotten cards so they were very happy with that. So some of the people had mentioned that.
And with the cards, the families were told
Right.
that in addition to this, we would be, you're eligible by virtue of your child's acceptance to use the food for the rest of the earning. They have as yet not chosen to take advantage of that. But we have let the families know that they're eligible.
Correct.
And if somebody comes up to the door and says they want food, we'll give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other new business or old business?
New business, just
Yeah.
a question for the board. In light of the civil unrest, the civil outcry, do we as a township want to take a position and make a statement? I think Jack made a suggestion that this might be an appropriate thing for us to address similar to the wonderful welcoming statement that we made some years ago that was drafted by Gail that made us all very proud. How do you folks feel about possibly a resolution, some language to kind of set forth our openness and our feelings about the present situation?
For the resolution that we adopted was open-ended. It didn't end. It's still our position. We could republish the same ordinance or the same resolution because that's still in effect.
Yeah.
It just said that we provide services for everybody, and I have no problem with republishing that,
I
but
think,
there's no reason to
yeah.
do another way. It's still there. It's still in effect.
So one option could be to do nothing, another option could be to republish, and a third option could be to come up with something new and additional. I'm wondering how folks feel about that.
I'm all for republishing. Doing nothing doesn't strike me as appropriate. A whole new resolution, probably nice, but I think the one that Gail had crafted a couple of years ago covers the field and does it very nicely. So I go for republishing.
And we don't have to date it. It is our constant position. It's there. This is what we are and what we do.
Jack, I'd like your input on that.
What I did, and I ran this by Alan literally a day or so ago, is I wrote his next dispatch column where the opening addresses this very situation about George Floyd. And what I had planned to do, since I'm starting to work on the Courier, is to try to create a hybrid of his normal Courier article, which would also carry that sentiment forward. What alarmed me over the weekend is when we converted over the website, the welcoming resolution was nowhere to be found on the website. So I went and found it in my old documents, created a PDF, and I put it up on the website under the board materials just to make certain it's out there. But
Okay, so
I really feel that I agree with John, to say nothing is probably not a good idea, but the welcoming resolution does indeed cover a very broad swath. So I think if we do Alan's column and the welcoming resolution, I think we've made a statement on behalf of the township. That's my take.
yeah, I think that covers us in
I think so.
a couple of different ways.
Do you need a
it is, in fact, and continues to be our policy.
Do we need a motion to effectuate that, or?
No, it's already there. And we could reprint the same thing every week if you'd like. And I mean, it's there. It's our policy.
Very good.
Okay. Any other business that anyone would like to address? If not, we can go home. But yeah,
Alan?
Jack.
Just one quick thing. Trustee Moser asked me about the Bernie's Book Bank. And I've had two discussions, one with Darren Utnick, who's their CEO, and Carol Collier, who's in charge of their operations. And I just got an email late afternoon today that Nancy Holly and Pastor Paul Gilmore from the Winnetka Presbyterian Church have offered their parking lot to us if we want to do an outdoor event. And with the dates we talked about tentatively with Bernie's would be July 9th or 10th, somewhere in there. This is all new territory, but the Reader's Digest version, it would be a giant Bernie's truck, 2 or 3 large distribution boxes on pallets. We would have some cones set up, so there would be like a circular in, out. We'd need to corral some volunteers. Bernie's people will be there as well, of course, but that's the progress I've been able to make since the last meeting. So if the board feels good about it, Stefan, I know you had specifically asked about it. I think it would give us an opportunity unfortunately, we won't be able to do the full scale 30-day drive we normally do, but it gives us some presence. And I know Bernie's really needs the books too.
And it's a good location. So if
Mhm.
we can get some signage there, it is a prominent location.
And the villages have had their hands full with the protesting. I've reached out to a few, but I did not really realistically expect to hear back because they've had their hands full with policing and everything else of late. So the church seems to be a good option to me, and I think it was a very kind gesture for the pastor to offer their lot space to us.
Yeah, that would be good. We can go ahead with that.
And we should get the necessary blasts out there so the public is aware of the fact.
All right, that sounds good. And one more thing, John, you asked about email addresses for the dispatch.
Yep.
So I reached out to a list broker about the possibility of purchasing names. Now, here's the caveat. The broker tells me that when you purchase names and you send, uninvited emails, you can count on 10 to 15 people to opt out or drop out. So with that said, they have 8,252 emails in their database that comes from a source called Epsilon. And it would cost about $440 to buy those email addresses if we want to purchase them.
These are obviously all addresses in the township, as best they know.
Yes, Glencoe, Kenilworth, Wilmette, and Winnetka, and then they have Glenview, but that's all of Glenview. I just called out the major towns, Wilmette, Winnetka, Kenilworth, and Glencoe that are available, and there's just a shade over 8,000 addresses available for purchase. So
For 400 and some bucks.
it's 440 is the price he quoted me.
How many do we have on our email list now?
1,162.
So we'd be making a significant jump for 450 bucks, huh?
We would. Now, the other
There's
caveat,
some duplication, but
there'll be duplication that we can take care of, but Constant Contact is very strict about if you send unsolicited emails and you get a certain amount, a percentage, I think it's 12 to 15% of people who opt out, they can freeze you for a while until you explain why people are opting out. So we would have to do this in a very small, phased in approach. So we're not bombarding 8,000 new names into the database in 1 week, because we risk getting shut down on Constant Contact.
Okay.
So those are the follow-ups, but we would need to make some post-meeting decisions on that. So, but I know you wanted me to follow up on it, so that's the
Thank you.
411.
Jack, I'm somewhat naive, but what would you be sending out via email that doesn't go out in some other format? Or is it duplicative?
It's just the people who receive the dispatch now, Stefan, are opt-in. So they have elected at some point, they have willingly given us their email and said, yes, you have my permission. Constant Contact technically asks you if you have permission to email these people. And in this case, we're purchasing a list, but we've really never asked them if we have their permission per se to email them.
Okay, and what's the nature of the information that you email?
The dispatch is just township news and
So
updates.
it's just a dispatch.
it's just
You
the
use
stuff we're
email for-
already sending.
Yeah, just the general news and info, upcoming events, recaps, nothing. We're not selling anything. It's just township news. So
I have seen sites be shut down because of exactly what you're talking about, Jack.
that's
So
my,
my total, I agree that it should be phased in slowly, if at all.
I'd have to do some very careful calculations to make sure we don't lose our account. So,
Okay.
Is it worth it?
We don't know. You never know. Is any advertising worth it? Who knows? We promised the public when we ran for these offices that we were going to do hard work to spread the word that there is such a thing as New Trier Township, because unfortunately, a lot of people don't know. And this is one way to do it.
It is. It's another tool before us. The other tool is organic growth and everybody getting on their contact networks. And we've got a link. We've got a landing page I set up. All they do is click, put their email address in, and it goes right into the constant contact database, and they're signed up. That said, we have to get that internal machine going if we want that organic growth, and we want the people in our contact spheres to sign up for that newsletter willingly.
Growth be proportionate to what you would be allocating in terms of the list potentially? I mean, are you gonna, is that 100 people? Are you gonna go solicit 100 people or no?
No.
It's
No.
as good as I like to think I am. I don't know if I can give you a solid answer to that one.
That's
Stephen. I really don't know.
Just asking the questions.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's a roll
It's
of
a
the dice.
crapshoot. If you're lucky that week in the list, then you did wonderfully. If you know, who knows?
If we get a 10% response, I'm going to pat my back and tell you how great I am. If it's a 1% response, we'll say, yeah, you know, so.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Anything else?
Next meeting.
That was the last thing. Okay. Wait. July. The hell? So that would be July 2nd? Or no, oh crap. I'm clearly having some problem here.
July 14th.
July 14th is what you're looking for.
Just a Tuesday in July. That's- Yeah, let's do the 14th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Jerome, maybe we can talk offline about the annual meeting and what you'd like to do about that, please.
Okay.
Yeah, if we are going to do it, we have to decide between now and the 14th.
Isn't there like an alternative date that they gave us in that resolution?
It was very confusing, Gail. They
July 23rd.
Tuesday after the
Clerk Levy at Niles last night said that July 21st would be their annual meeting, but I was unclear on whether it was Zoom or how they were doing it.
But in order to do that, you have to get special permission from the health commissioner. And I
Yeah,
just,
to say that we're not going to create a pandemic emergency. Let's find out when Tackett is available.
Will do.
That would be the first thing, see if we can go in there. And the other thing that we should look at, if that's not available, the new Wilmette Women's Club appears to be done and ready for meetings. So maybe we could look there if we can't use Tackett.
do they have an elevator, Hallie?
It looks like they would have everything. I have not been in it for many, many, many years, certainly before the fire. So I don't know.
I believe their main meeting hall will be on floor. We may not, we may not need an elevator. Although the bathrooms used to be downstairs, so.
Well, we could call them and find out. So let's find out between now and the next meeting what's available, and then we can just go ahead. Okay?
Sounds
If
good.
there's nothing else, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you spending a nice, wet June evening together. Okay.
And Diane,
Yep.
definitely pass on to the staff that the trustees as a whole are very pleased with their yeoman work during these very difficult times. We're proud of them and we support them.
Thank you for saying that, Elliot. Appreciate that. I'll let them know.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I make a point of telling them that just about each time I'm in there.
Absolutely.
And they seem to be appreciative when they're throwing stuff they miss. So, okay.
No.
Thank you all very much. And we'll be in touch.
Stay
Thank you.
healthy and safe, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
You and I getting together distance.